Hello, welcome back to The Luxe Budget. My name is Emily, and today I wanted to talk to you about Sancerre. So, for anybody who does not know what Sancerre is, which I didn't when I started off on my wine journey, it is a wine region in France, in the Loire Valley, the Eastern Loire Valley, to be specific. And it is a Sauvignon Blanc grape. And it is one of those areas, sort of like Champagne, that has just a very rich history. They've been creating wine there since ancient times. And so that means that typically speaking, when you're talking about Sancerre, you're talking about a higher price tag. So I think I was reading that entry-level wines for Sancerre is around like $30. Whereas mid-level is 40 to 60, and then the more special reserves are going to be about $70 plus. So when I was at Trader Joe's a couple days ago, I saw this Sancerre, and I was immediately intrigued because that just didn't feel like the place you would find a good bottle of Sancerre, especially because it was $18, which is funny because my perception of wine has changed a lot over the last year or so, because $18 at Trader Joe's is a lot for a bottle of wine. I say most of their wines are typically in like the $10 to $13 range. So anything more than that kind of feels like a splurge. But because Sancerre itself is typically on the higher end in terms of price, I was really curious what we were going to find out by trying out this bottle. So it's a verified appellation Sancerre contrôlée, which means that it's within the legal limitations to be able to call it Sancerre. So we're definitely getting something from France, something from Sancerre. The question that we need to answer is whether or not this batch of Sancerre, which is probably not an artisanal or craftsman-led one, is it worthwhile? So per usual, let's take a little sip here. And just as far as what I see on the bottle here, it's Sancerre les trois terroirs. And actually, I think that that's referencing the fact that in Sancerre, there are three main types of soil, which is part of the reason why its wine is so distinguishable from other types of Sauvignon Blanc. They've got, limestone, two different kinds of limestone, and then a really flinty soil as well. So that typically gives it a very mineral finish, something that's going to taste like whetstone or something not just fruit forward. So on the nose right now, I'm immediately I can tell that there's going to be some minerality to this. Also, in terms of Sancerre, it's very rarely aged in oak. So this is going to be stainless steel casks. It's going to be very, very minimal, if any, exposure to even old French oak. So you're not going to get any of that flavor. The ones that I've had previously were almost like a white Burgundy, and I think that's why I liked them so much. But it is interesting to think about how the growth and the production of a grape can almost be more important than the grape itself in the resulting wine. Because I've had Sauvignon Blancs that taste so much like a Chardonnay, and then I've had some Chardonnays, like certain Chablis, that are very acidic. I've gotten almost like a Pinot Grigio or a Sauvignon Blanc flavor from those. So this is what I love about wine. It's just really cool. But okay, so I'm getting that mineral flavor on the nose, and then probably some orchard fruit. So maybe apple and pear. I'm getting some mild citrus notes as well, but they're kind of hidden a little bit behind that really prominent minerality. Here we go. Okay. I think, first and foremost, what I'm tasting, this is very dry. This is light. It's acidic. It's kind of what you would expect from a checkbox mentality from a Sauvignon Blanc, but I think that if somebody ordered this expecting that really bright, zippy Sauvignon Blanc flavor that you're typically going to get from a New Zealand, you would be I don't want to say disappointed, but you would be a little surprised. Because this, when you taste it, it has more of a mellow character to it. And I think it's that really flinty soil that gives it just, it's not as herbaceous, it's not as citrusy, it's not as mouth puckering as your typical Sauvignon Blanc. And I say typical Sauvignon Blanc like there's one variety or one way that it expresses itself, and it doesn't. But I think most of us, when we think of a Sauvignon Blanc, have a very similar, very citrusy, very acidic, very light-bodied, very almost like a tart juice of wine. This one, you really taste that minerality on your tongue. It doesn't taste as good, truthfully, as the more expensive bottles that I've had. So the last time I had Sancerre, I was at a restaurant and it was part of a drink package. And the prices that they put on the menu there are very different than what you actually would pay for that bottle if you were buying it at a store. So it was $90 there, but that realistically means it's probably like maybe $40 maximum. It's probably closer to, you know, $35. But even that one compared to this $18 one was expressed very differently. Let's take another sip. The flavors are really interesting on your tongue, but they evaporated. This, when I say it's light-bodied, it doesn't really leave anything. So it's interesting for a second, and then it's not incredibly smooth. So it doesn't have just like a very cohesive quality to it. There's not a ton of balance. I do taste some orchard fruit. I do taste a little bit of citrus, but then I also taste primarily those flinty, like stony notes to it. I think the part that is disappointing to me are not any of those flavors. It's just the lack of balance between them. And it disappears too quickly for it to be a super interesting wine. So in the case of the $18 bottle of Sancerre versus the People, I'm gonna have to say it's not a terrible wine, but you're not getting the Sancerre experience by buying this bottle, so don't fool yourself. What else did I want to say about this? The bottle, oh, another thing about Sauvignon Blanc in general, but Sancerre as well, is that you're typically going to be getting younger bottles because they're not aged a ton. So don't be off-put if you see an expensive bottle that's from like 2023 or 2024. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just one of those grapes that doesn't benefit much from a really long aging process. I'm gonna pour a little bit more out here, and then I am going to cheers you for joining me. If you have any questions about Sancerre or any other French wine specifically, because that's where I'm at in my Somm journey right now, let me know in the comments. Thank you. Cheers.